Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel V. Hill, presented by Superbook Sports. Taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel V. Hill.
Good morning, everybody. What do you think of our new intro?
Wow.
I know.
I love it.
Thank you.
Cool. Very, very cool.
Thank you. Definitely fun. Rachel V. Hill, D-Mac hanging out with you in studio today. Will Peterson going to join us in a little bit. Happy Thursday, everybody. D-Mac, how was your Wednesday?
My Wednesday.
We thought we might have a game. We didn't, so we were just hanging.
So my wife watches one TV show. One.
Survivor.
Right. So we've watched every episode of Survivor for 20 whatever years. And so last night was the season finale.
Uh-huh.
It came down to Carolyn, Jam Jam, and Heidi.
I like Jam Jam.
You like Jam Jam?
Jam Jam.
You know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea what you're talking about, but Jam Jam, the fact that that's the name, love it.
Jam Jam is a salon owner from Puerto Rico, and he won. Jam Jam won it. So way to go, Jam Jam. Carolyn did not get any votes.
Oh, okay. Did you just give some spoilers away?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it was last night. I found out like live tweeting TV does not go across the same as live tweeting sporting events.
Okay.
So I definitely got some negative comments as I was live tweeting Survivor.
It's a little bit different than sports.
I guess it is, so I won't do that again.
Okay.
Sorry that I might have spoiled it for you if you were getting to the finale of Survivor later today. But be happy for Jam Jam.
I'm very happy. I'm also happy for Brandon McManus. As we know, on Tuesday, he had tweeted out, "The Broncos have informed me I've been released. More to come in the following days." Well, guess what? There's now new news, and Brandon McManus is heading to Jacksonville. Congrats to him.
It's we'll see what the terms are of the contract. I am not surprised by this at all, but here's a fun twist. Riley Patterson, who was the Jacksonville kicker, was released by Jacksonville in order to make room for Brandon McManus. Guess who the Broncos are likely to look at now?
Oh,
Riley Patterson, because he comes with a cap hit of only $975,000.
Wow.
So the Jaguars are telling everybody, listen, it's more important for us. We expect big things. We've got the room to do it because they've got the quarterback situation under financial control. That's another huge piece of the puzzle. If you draft a first-year, a rookie quarterback, is that you can build around him at a cheaper price. So they can spend more money on a kicker. The Broncos have to spend less money on a kicker. Riley Patterson, his numbers were almost identical to Brandon McManus in terms of field goal percentage and what he did last year. So as far as the Jaguars, they're hoping to get a bigger bang for their buck, and the Broncos are hoping Patterson is, just as good as McManus was last year.
Listen, this is no hate on Brandon McManus by any means, but he's at the end of his career.
Ooh, you think so? Why do you think he's at the end?
Because technically, I mean, when you look at his stats, last year was his worst year by far. But I think it looks like a little bit like this. He had, he was here at the beginning. He's gone up a little bit, gone down, had 1 year of going up, and then essentially has gone down every year since.
Well, it's funny how they do kicking stats. So they designate kicks like 20 to 30 yards, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 49. But when it gets 50, it's just 50 plus.
Yep.
It doesn't take into consideration field goals attempts over 60 yards. And
because those are, I don't want to say like a miracle to make, but those are extra tough to make.
No doubt. There's no doubt about it. But
I'm what's the correct word I want to use here?
No, that's perfectly understandable. And they don't separate it. They don't give that extra tough special kick any more or less credence. It's kind of like if a quarterback throws an interception on a Hail Mary. I mean, should it really count as the same as an interception during play?
Just a normal play.
If a basketball player hooks up a shot at half court, should that count as a field goal missed? So if you just dig into the numbers a little bit, McManus was actually a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit better because a couple of his misses came from beyond 60 yards. And I'm telling you, when I looked at, I don't know field goal stats, but I looked at them recently, and the margins between kickers, say 20 and 8. I mean, it's Rachel. It's like fractions of points.
True.
So I don't know what McManus. Listen, if you want to say, hey, listen, he had his worst statistical year, you're not wrong. But if you want to say he's at the end of his career, we'll see. It's a kicker, Rachel. I mean, he's in his 30s. You can stay in shape in your 30s and kick a ball. You know, I don't know how the deterioration of a kicker goes in his 30s.
You know what will be interesting, though, is it's different kicking balls here in the Mile High City than it is when you go other places. I wonder how big of an impact that will have on Brandon McManus, because he's obviously been here for how many seasons?
But Brandon McManus has had one of the strongest legs in the NFL for years and years and years. It's funny, when he first started, the issue that he had was accuracy. It wasn't the strength of his leg. In fact, the Broncos, and I forget the other kicker's name, but there were actually, for a very short period of time, there were like 2 kickers for the Broncos as they were getting McManus like up to speed.
Okay, this was at the beginning.
Or it was like he was like on the team and then he was off the team and then he came back on. This was at the very beginning of his career, and he dialed it in. I mean, you know, Brandon McManus he's the second leading scorer in Broncos history. So I mean, it's not like he hasn't had a valuable contribution. But the irony that we may just be flip-flopping kickers with the Jaguars is. Well, it's interesting, yeah.
I actually love this comment too. McManus' production might have fallen off due to the Broncos' mediocrity and culture.
He was definitely one of those dudes who...
It's not a bad point to be made.
He wasn't happy with things. I mean, he was very visible with how upset he was at a variety of points with different people and coaches. And, you know, he had a lot of personality for a kicker. He wasn't a shy guy. That's a good one. I don't know. It's hard to say. The whole move surprised me until you dig into the numbers and you realize the lack of draft picks they had to develop depth. So this is just one of those moves that I understand why they do it, but you just got to take a deep breath and you just hope, okay, can you be Brandon McManus was 10 of 10 from 40 to 49. So you got to make those. And from 50 to 55, you got to be pretty damn consistent too. Everything after 55 yards, Rachel, is, you know, it's kind of a coin flip.
It's like a Hail Mary kind of thing.
Kind of, yeah.
Justin Tucker, though, what's the record? Is it 68, 64?
It's along those lines.
I can't remember.
And I know I actually heard a little birdie tell me, you know, Justin.
We love D-Max birdies.
Justin, it did irk Brandon McManus to be compared the Justin Tucker sort of thing. You know, it's like, he's not that much better than me. And listen, this is the level of confidence you have to perform.
Sure.
The truth of the matter is Justin Tucker may go down as the greatest kicker of all time. And even he missed an extra point last year.
True.
So stuff happens. I think McManus missed 3. You know, he wasn't great from 60 plus yards. He still kicked his rate was like 77%, which I know doesn't sound incredible, but he was perfect from 40 to 49 yards. But also, as I'm looking at this, Riley Patterson, according to Mike Kliss.
And how old is he?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay.
But he made 30 of 35 field goals at 85%. McManus was 30th at 77%. But you can see that that's a wild... It's the percentage points are not that much different, and they don't factor in the 60 plus. So anyways, but they're getting rid of him. So Jacksonville's getting rid of their guy who kicked on a much higher percentage than McManus and costs way less, and they're dumping him. So what does that tell you?
True. 23 years old. I will tell the single ladies in the Mile High City, he's not bad looking. So if you're looking for a kicker, there you go. After coffee break, you guys can all go ahead and look at him. But yeah.
Okay. I'm glad he's got
23 years old. That's not bad.
Well, there you go.
I mean, McManus is
32. 33. I don't know.
I was going to say 33.
Decrepit. I mean, it's just
old. My gosh. Gosh, those old people that don't
old.
get it. Okay, let's move on though, because obviously today is going to be the first day the media and a lot of the fans, because of the media, are going to be able to see anything going on or inside Broncos headquarters. We had rookie minicamp, but we're actually going to see. But it is day 3 for OTAs for the actual team, correct?
Yeah, that is right. I'm just looking for some quick notes. It just opened up to the media. I'll be going down there a little bit. Let me tell you the secret sauce of football practice. I'm not missing anything. The most important, the most interesting part of football practice always happens in the final like 20 minutes of the practice. Other than that, It's a walkthrough. It's a stretch. It's individual drills. And not that that's not all just
fine and dandy,
amazingly exciting. But you get to the team period, or with Sean Payton now, 7-on-7, 1-on-1s. So we'll see some real football today for sure with the entire team. And I don't think they're going to have the logos on the helmets. I think that's a Sean Payton sort of.
And remind people why that is.
I really don't know. Sean Payton doesn't.
It's just a Sean Payton thing. We're seeing the difference in a man who's completely in control, and that's Sean Payton. Yeah. And he likes what he likes, and he doesn't like what he doesn't like. I guess
it's something he did with the Saints. So
it's very bizarre because you would think like no matter what, but I guess not everyone on this team will make, or not everybody that's practicing will make the team. So
yes. I don't know. Listen, whatever. Sean, whatever you want to do with all that little stuff, if you think it works, then fine. Who are we to say that it doesn't?
True.
These are the little things. If little things matter and it works for you, I support it 100%.
Go for it.
I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. So what do I care?
Somebody says new logos, maybe. I don't think that's anything.
I mean, no, that takes actually like that
Did
takes
you
that
see
so
the Commanders?
No, what's going on?
Okay,
well, I know they might lose the name.
Yeah, so somebody actually has already had it trademarked.
Yeah,
the Commanders. So now they might have to completely rename it again.
How do they get that?
That's what I want to know. How do you get this far in the process and not realize it's already trademarked? We just went through a legal training about trademarks. Like, there's a lot of steps that have to go through. That's shocking to me.
That is amazing. I guess somebody may have had it, kept it a big secret, trying to set up the Commanders for this moment right here. This feels like a ridiculous.
Do you think they're trying to sell it? Like, hey, Commanders, you've already gone through it. I'll give it to you for $2.1 million.
No doubt, whoever has the rights is trying to blackmail the Commanders right now for cash. I mean, no doubt about it. Because could you easily name who the Commanders are aside from the Washington Commanders? I mean, does it roll up? Is it a photocopy company? Is it a TV company? I mean, what is it? My bet is somebody trademarked it, and this is a weaselly way to try to make millions and millions of dollars off the Commanders. And the Commanders may be just like, you know what? Forget it. Instead of paying you $100 million or whatever the hell you want for it, we're just going to change our name. And that does happen in legal proceedings all the time, where it's just like, okay, I guess you win because it's going to cost us more to actually defend ourselves than to change everything. It sounds ridiculous, but if the Commanders did change their name tomorrow and then they were the whatever for the next 50 years, this would just be a blip on the radar. It wouldn't be that big of a deal.
True. I just think I'm like, how did we get all this way and yet we still don't?
I actually give the Commanders a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. This to me feels like a slow roll, blackmail, slimy sort of deal. I am sure that the Commanders have lawyers and intellectual property rights people. So this feels like not haphazard work by the Commanders. This is just my opinion, but this feels like a little bit of slimy work by somebody else.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
I'm defending the Commanders, I guess.
Who are you looking forward to seeing out there on the field today for the Broncos?
The most exciting guy that I want to see is Marvin Mims Jr. and Russell Wilson. I guess I start there.
Oh, you're being 100% serious on Marvin Mims. I thought you were joking for a second.
No. I want to see really how he fits in, because I think they have big plans for him.
Yeah.
I think they have plans for him as a returner, as a receiver. I feel bad for KJ Hamler, who's a good dude, but you may see like this, the combination of Jerry Jeudy and Marvin Mims. I'm very curious to see Tim Patrick, to see him come back from injury. Russell Wilson, of course, I think we'll all have our eyes to see what's going on there. And I'll give you somebody else. This is the first time we get to see in action Vance Joseph, because the other time that we were allowed to watch the Broncos, he was at his daughter's graduation at USC. So he gets to see VJ back in the fold. I assume we'll hear from Russell Wilson. We'll get to see him. Everybody will blather on about how in great shape he is And, it'll be cool. It'll be cool. And I'm glad to blather on about how good a shape he is. And I'll be happy to report he looks better. He's playing better. He's got better confidence, yada, yada, yada. So I think today will be chock full of good news coming out of the Broncos.
So Andrew Mason put together a list of 5 players to watch down at OTA. So we're going to go through them. Russell Wilson, of course.
Okay.
And I feel like a lot of it's going to be based around his appearance and maybe not how he handles practice, but, what's the relationship like between him and Sean Payton? And I feel like that's going to be a little interesting. When we have to look from it from an outsider's point of view, it can be a little bit hard, but you can tell the difference in, the way that they talk to each other. And like, you can still get a little bit out even when you're standing far away.
Okay. Well, we like Russell Wilson. That's an easy one. Who else does he have on his list?
Damari Mathis.
Damari Mathis, interesting. Cornerback who will step up to a starting role, already was. But he got picked on quite a bit because of Patrick Surtain on the other side.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. It's his time to shine, and then we'll see where Riley Moss fits in the mix.
Exactly.
The draft pick. It's but it'll be Surtain and Mathis with Moss, maybe. I mean, we'll see. Yeah, I'm not sure, but it'll be interesting. Yeah.
And then a guy you've already named, Tim Patrick.
Well, yeah, coming back off of injury, who got hurt. I'll never forget it. We were right there watching it in training camp, and it was a spectacular diving catch.
Yep.
And he just never got up from it. And it was just, like, as soon as it happened, it was like, damn, like this is going to be bad. You can tell right away. So he is, man, that's an ACL, and he's, I will be really interested. It's less than a year for sure.
We saw Tim Patrick at the Nuggets game too, all smiles, sitting down there, of course. So that was great to see because I haven't seen him since the injury. There's been a few pictures, I guess, that have circulated the internet, but I have not personally seen him. So it was great to see him then. I thought Tim Patrick was going to be wide receiver number 1 last year at the beginning of training camp.
Yeah, it was shaping up that way.
So I was full go ahead on Tim Patrick. And I remember that moment too of driving in. I was listening to Stokely and Zach driving in after coffee break. And that's when it happened.
Crazy,
and it was just like, oh my gosh. And of course you walk in and everybody's kind of silent. The mood is very, very gross. And you just walked in and you were like, something bad definitely just happened here. And a lot of people had watched it. But we love bounce back seasons. We love the recovery seasons. We love those storylines too. And I really hope that for Tim Patrick.
I do too. He's a good dude. He's they're committed to him. It's become more and more apparent that Courtland Sutton is not a number 1 guy.
Is it the confidence? What is it?
It's a combination of a lot of things. He had a serious injury that he has recovered from, and he's played since the injury.
Yep.
But it's just never been quite the same. His game but his game too was never about separation. It was always being able to high point the ball and get to throwing balls that, the defense can't. So without all of his explosiveness, he never really was a separation guy. So without that already, and the inability to really, do athletically what he used to be able to do, it's kind of like, okay, then what do we got here?
Yeah.
Great guy.
Fantastic dude.
But right now, if Marvin Mims is the guy we think he is, if Tim Patrick rebounds the way we hope he will, I mean, Courtland Sutton becomes the 4th receiver on this team.
Judy. Mims.
Yeah. Patrick.
Well, Patrick. But you're putting Courtland above Tim Patrick?
No. Patrick, Judy, Mims, Sutton.
Okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood you there. I was like, you're really putting Courtland above, but we were talking indeed about Courtland.
4th receives, fourth best option. But listen, things happen. Guys get hurt all the time. This is just how things are on paper, like right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't wish it on anybody, but somebody might get hurt today. Somebody may have been hurt.
And we've seen that. There's been a lot of news coming out of different NFL teams.
One of the first things we do, and that's why I'm kind of scrolling through Twitter really quick, because one of the first things you do is you go through a roll call, like who's here, who's not here.
Yeah.
Now the OTAs are voluntary, and we'll find out after practice if everybody's okay. But Rachel, there have been some crazy practices where You get to the end, you think everything's okay, and then there's an announcement.
Yeah.
I'll give you somebody else to keep an eye on. How about Garrett Bowles, who was gone with an injury all of last year and is now back?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about Garrett Bowles.
Yep.
It'll be great to have him. He is fantastic to the media too.
And frankly, you got Garrett Bowles, the whole offensive line we haven't seen because you got Powers,
Strum.
Oh my God, I'm forgetting our guys' name. We got Miners, you got McGlinchey, and Cush. You got Cush at center. So those guys are all veterans. So we didn't see any of them at the rookie minicamp. So we'll see all of them for the first time today. So that'll be cool, and it'll be great to see. Obviously Garrett Bowles back.
And Dalton Reisner still is just out on the market.
I did a little work on that this week, and I think sadly, Dalton and his agent just misplayed the market. And that happens every now and then. It's a bummer when it happens. You think you're worth this. You may say no to another opportunity because it's not as high as you wanted because you're waiting for something else. And if that something else doesn't come around, Dalton's in the territory right now, Rachel, of either taking a vet minimum deal with somebody or saying, forget that. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to wait for somebody to get hurt somewhere and for a team to get a little bit desperate. Now, there is a track record of that. This did happen for the Broncos in 2015 with Evan Mathis, who they did not get on the team until training camp. And then Mathis was kind of hurt the whole year. He never practiced the whole season, but he started every game through the Super Bowl. So it's an amazing story. And it was only on the Broncos for 1 year because he was really injured and at the end of his career, but somehow he was good enough to play in every game, including the Super Bowl in a Super Bowl winning year. So the story of Evan Mathis would give hope theoretically to Dalton Reisner's logic that somebody might go down on some team, but that is just a brutal way to live your life.
Well,
can you imagine you're working out by yourself?
No.
You're home with your wife and your family every day. You don't have a team to be around, and you're just kind of floating around really a really swole looking guy at the 24-hour fitness. It's Dalton Reisner.
I follow.
I mean, it's odd.
I follow his wife on TikTok. And so I've been keeping up. They've done a lot of traveling, a ton. It feels like every other week they're out there.
Good.
But we also see some of the workouts they've been doing. And so to your point, that's got to be really hard. They do. They've been running a whole bunch recently, going up to the mountains running. And then they've got a weight room, I think, down in their house too.
So it's not at the 24-hour fitness.
Not at the 24-hour fitness. And I feel like he'd be at Lifetime Fitness anyways. But
not at the Lifetime Fitness.
Not at the Lifetime. But I mean, the same thing, even with the Broncos' new nose tackle, Tyler Lancaster, he didn't play last year.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, so when you got rid of McManus, you got depth. So you got Tyler Lancaster, depth, maybe bad news for Mike Purcell. We'll see. They're not that committed to him, but, we'll see. They also got Cam Fleming as the swing tackle. So depth, and they're going to get a low-budget kicker. One way or another, they're getting a low-budget kicker. They're going to get a veteran on a veteran minimum, or they're going to get a young guy like we talked about who is on a low contract. It's low-budget kicker this year for the Denver Broncos one way or the other. But that you get all of that because you moved on from Brandon McManus.
Real quick, I'm going to interrupt the show because I just saw this comment. Rachel, did you share which former coach called DMAC during the show on Tuesday? You said someone got their guess correct. We did not. And
I can tell you the story.
Oh, if you want to, it's totally up to you. I don't want to.
Yeah, well, I didn't know what he wanted to talk about.
Okay.
So I wanted to keep it on the down low, but now I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I got Adam Gase called me. He has 2 DMACs in his phone. And he was trying to call a guy who's some sort of golf pro or somebody at his golf club or something. So he had 2 DMACs in his phone. So he was trying to reach the other DMAC.
When he got DMAC calling back, he was probably like, "Oh, what's up?" He was
very nice. He did answer my return call.
Oh my gosh,
he didn't want to talk to me in the first place. But we had a couple of nice texts. He's doing okay, and
good to know.
I was like, "Oh, okay," but no, it wasn't that special. So it was my guy Adam Gase.
And do you remember how yesterday too we were asking why do we skip over E?
Yeah.
A fabulous comment saying,
is there a reason?
There is, because E can be misconstrued for excellent. So they just go straight to F because you don't want to circle an E and then a parent thinks
So
it's
F
excellent.
can't stand for
Fantastic.
fabulous.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
That's just what somebody said in the comments. And I was like, you know what? That actually makes sense.
What if E stood for egregious? Like it was awful.
Well, you can change the grading system then.
I don't even care. But listen, let me tell you, man, I got one more kid in school. If I never have to worry about finals or papers or thinking about how my kid's doing, I got 2 more years with this, my guy. But we have like 2 days. I know, really, seriously. We got 2 days. Why do I feel like I'm writing the paper, like I'm in class, I'm taking the final?
Listen.
My wife gives me such a hard time, but I can't help it. I have this crazy. Does anybody else have this? Do you have crazy anxiety when your kids are going through tests? I've had 23,
kids, so.
Not 23 years. I guess they started. When did it matter? It didn't really matter in elementary school.
No.
Not really. It started kind of like in middle school or something.
Yeah, that like sets you up for how you're going to do in high school or like what advanced classes you're going to take.
It's basically been 9 horrible years of high anxiety and I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, so there you go.
Wait, I know the college baseball tournaments are going on right now. Does your son have a college baseball tournament right now?
He does not because his coach was not great and they did not make the playoffs.
Okay.
They should have made the playoffs. There was a way to make the playoffs. They didn't. He's done with that school, by the way. He's not going there anymore.
Get out.
I'll save the name of it. And
we don't like it anyways.
Yeah. Not happy to be moving forward. Okay. How about that? Happy for the next step in the journey.
Going back to Dalton Reisner, excuse me, because a lot of people like him and I feel like they connect with him because he's like that local hometown kid. I loved it because he went to K-State, yada yada. But is it possible for Dalton to come back for depth?
No.
I agree. I think his time with the Denver Broncos has officially come to an end.
It has come to an end, unfortunately. I wouldn't say it's come to an end forever, but it's certainly come to an end for this year.
Mm-hmm.
That is a bummer. I don't think Dalton. That's a tough one, man. I don't think it's happening, and I don't think there's going to be an opportunity for it.
Yeah.
But like we had Kareem Jackson here on Coffee Break,
mm-hmm.
Shelby Harris, there are a couple of examples of guys that did go test the market.
Yep.
It didn't really work out, and they came back to the Broncos. In Shelby's case, he thought he was going to cash in, and he did come back for a low-level deal. He played well
mm-hmm.
and earned bigger money from the Broncos,
mm-hmm.
and then he was part of the trade with Russell Wilson. Kareem's just been – this is the 3rd year in a row on a 1-year deal for Kareem. Yep. So I think Kareem is awesome. Little bit different with Kareem, a little bit different because he's an older player who's not really testing the market to get Kareem's at the part of his career where, he loves football. He's a great player and he's really just trying to get as much time as he can out of his career in the NFL. So
he says he doesn't even go out to dinner when he signs a new contract extension. Like there is no celebration. It's just another day in the life. I was like, Kareem, we got to enjoy the little moments in life, my friend. Go out to dinner.
Yeah, you're still making like $3 million a year.
Exactly.
It's not exactly chicken feed, but everything's relative though. I mean, comparative to the other guys in the locker room, Kareem isn't making squadoosh compared to, what Surtain is definitely going to be and what Justin Simmons makes. And but he's doing all right. He's doing all right.
I'll take it. Love this question too.
Yeah.
What do you hope to see that will convince you the team has changed / improved? It's a great question.
You're not going to know until the regular season, unfortunately. Here's what happens. People are going to be gushing
mm-hmm.
about today, okay? Gushing, okay?
Agreed.
People are going to love everything. This was the weird thing about Sean Payton doing this media lockdown at this time of the year. Every news story you're going to hear about the Broncos is going to be positive
mm-hmm.
from, this whole spring.
Yep.
And now with these OTAs, we get to be out to 3 of them every Thursday, which is the 3rd day of the OTA too,
mm-hmm.
which to me is like, okay, the 3rd day is when you're not really going as hard. I'd rather see the 2nd day or the 1st day, but okay, whatever. Roll my eyes. We get to see the 3rd day.
Yep.
So, and then you go into the mandatory minicamp, which is really like training camp.
Yeah.
And then we get to be out there for, usually all days. And that's where the whole, field day stuff comes into play if it happens again, or if it doesn't happen. I guess we'll talk about that. And that's June 13th through the 15th. So you're going to get a good solid once a week update on everybody's perspective, and it's going to be great. Then you go to training camp. And then you're going to have up and down days.
Yep.
But how do you really know what's going on? You don't until week 3.
Mm-hmm.
Around week 3, week 4, week 1 and 2 is ridiculous. You can't tell anything. But once you get to around week 3 or week 4, that's the time that you start being more kind of in tune with what this team's all about. So I hate to put you off. You're going to hear a lot of great news. So if you're optimistic and want to hear great news, we're the place for it for the next few months. And then the rubber hits the road sometime in October.
And Sean Payton better hope that his team is prepared. Otherwise, the media is absolutely going to.
But you're going to hear great things.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to hear Garrett Bowles is back and McGlinchey is huge.
Tim Patrick is doing fantastic.
Is awesome.
And
oh
Russell
my God.
Wilson looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be all of that. And I'll tell you this. If it's not all of that, you've got a problem.
Yeah.
But I anticipate it's going to be all of that.
No, we'll see. We do have number news.
And we do.
The Broncos have a 0 on their roster. Jonathan Cooper. How weird is it going to be to see a 0? It's like the small little things, but you're just so not used to it.
It's going to be super strange this entire year because.
Would you do a double 0 or just a 0 if you had to pick?
Me?
Yeah.
I would do a double 0.
Hell yeah, me too. Double 0 all the way.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most self-deprecating you can. So however I can regard myself the lowest possible. But one of my childhood basketball heroes was Robert Parrish of the Celtics, and he wore 00. So I got that.
Okay, well, let's talk about numbers and names. We've talked a lot about Jokic and Carmelo, but now there is a number 3 in Seattle. Oh boy, Russell Wilson's old number as we bring in our very own Will Peterson, but Archie Burns will wear the Seahawks number 3, and this was all the talk it felt like. I'm not kidding. I feel like this was all over the news this morning. Oh, let's see if we can bring Will Peterson. There he is. Will Peterson. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Yeah, Rachel, he's so irrelevant. His name is Artie Burns, not Archie Burns.
I thought it was Archie Burns. That's definitely my bad. But you're right. I mean, he's a backup cornerback.
That proves your point, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's when Manning came to Denver, he called Frank Trupica, about wearing number 18, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Manning was an all-time great already, a former number 1 overall pick. He had already won a Super Bowl. Trupica gave Manning his blessing to wear the number. Yeah. This is a cornerback for the Seahawks, guys. Last year, he wore number 21. He played in 3 games. He did not record a single stat. That's hard to do. When you go to someone's Pro Football Reference, you can't find a single stat for this man. Pete Carroll, John Schneider know exactly what they're doing by giving him number 3, especially when numbers 43 and 48 were available. His 21 from last year had gotten taken. He still had 2 other options.
Did he have to pay to switch it, Will? Do you know that?
No, because he wasn't on the roster. So someone took his 21. So he came back and the Seahawks said, well, kid, we got 3 numbers for you. 3, 43, 48. And no one in that organization, no one had the common courtesy to say, yeah, maybe we should stay away from number 3. That guy made 9 Pro Bowls in 10 years for us. That guy led us to 2 Super Bowls. That guy threw for 37,000 yards. He's the reason we only have, or he's part of the reason we have a Lombardi trophy. And oh, by the way, he's by far the greatest quarterback in Seahawks franchise history. It just goes to show you what John Schneider and Pete Carroll think of Russell Wilson.
It's a hardcore troll of Russell Wilson.
But how pathetic that you're also forgetting. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think it's so pathetic that it was a bad divorce. Yeah, but how about all the good memories that he still brought you? That's terrible in my personal opinion.
Every NFL team, and think of the greatest quarterback ever in their organization's history, and ask yourself, would that quarterback be treated the same? Will the Packers give away Aaron Rodgers' number? Will the Patriots give away Tom Brady's number? Heck, even the Steelers, will they give away Ben Roethlisberger's number? And he's maybe not even the best quarterback in their history. It's probably Terry Staubach. I don't know if they've given away the number 12 to anybody.
Okay, let's go through. Will they give away Aaron Rodgers' number?
I don't think so. I think it's common sense that once you have the greatest quarterback ever in your organization's history, nobody gets that number until that guy is done. And when it's clear, it's clear. So they hate him. They don't dislike him. They don't just kind of are annoyed by him. This move shows that they literally hate the guy, which is really harsh.
Will, we're seeing the exact same thing now with essentially the Nuggets. Like if they would have retired 15, Jokic would never have worn it. Well, now a better player has worn number 15 in a Nuggets uniform. So
yeah, but there's a big difference here. Sorry to interrupt, Will, real quick. The big difference is Carmelo Anthony isn't the definitive best player ever in the history of the team, nor did he lead them to a championship. That being said, he's the third leading scorer in team history. And if you're not retiring or honoring the third leading scorer in your team's history, then what are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Will.
Well, and let's be clear here. Jokic was assigned this number coming out his rookie year, right? Mm-hmm. So there is a little bit of similarities here, guys, that the Nuggets just said, oh, anyone can wear 15. And the Seahawks said, oh, anyone can wear 3. Let's not remember, Carmelo and the Nuggets didn't end on the best terms. I mean, we're 12 years after the trade, and Michael Malone said at a press conference the other day that Melo's welcome anytime. And that was like, ooh, big news, right? That was the first olive branch in 12 years. So, there are some other instances of this happening, but Artie Burns isn't turning into Nikola Jokic. I can promise you that. Mm-hmm. Artie Burns will be lucky to make the Seahawks 53-man roster.
It's a fair comment by Will.
It's a great comment.
It's a troll to Russell Wilson. It's just an insult. Listen, it's a little trickier, I guess, in football because there's more guys, so you can't just retire every other number. It's basketball. I mean, you could have given all sorts of numbers. You could have definitely stayed away from number 15 for a long time. And in all honesty, they should have. But okay, you burn a bridge, things like this happen.
Should Russell Wilson care? Oh.
Should he care? I don't know if he should care. I think he will care. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you don't care.
Might have just lost our broadcast. Will Peterson, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm still with you guys. Can you hear me?
We got you.
So you can hear us, but you can't see us.
I can see you, but we got a little graphic on the screen. Now we look right.
There we go.
Okay.
We got it straight.
I don't know what happened.
I think we're still live, aren't we?
I hope so.
We're good.
Okay. They can hear us. Yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just sorry. I got a little thrown off base there. Refresh me on D-Mac. You're just saying the Nuggets should have held off on 15, much like
I think it was kind of a well. Listen, of course, nobody knew Jokic was going to do this. Okay, yeah. He's a second-round pick, as Michael Malone said. He was an overweight, unathletic guy who they didn't have any sort of deeper thoughts about. So I think it's weird that they did give him 15.
Yeah.
I don't know what the history of it that is. I almost want to say in summer league basketball, they literally just give you numbers one in order, like 1 through 20 or whatever. And he might have just been handed, 15. It might not have been a calculated thing whatsoever. It's like, well, you get 13, you get 14, you get 15, you get 16, you get 17. I mean, seriously, it might have been something like that. And Jokic being Jokic doesn't give a crap about anything that doesn't matter. So he doesn't, really care about a number. I have no idea what Jokic's number is on the Serbian national team or what he wore for Mega, his club team that he was drafted from. So I don't know. I doubt it's anything significant. To me, Jokic couldn't even figure out how to put a T-shirt on at the end of the winning the Western Conference Final. He gave it a shot, but he struggled. It was just like, I think if he gave it like another second, he would have figured out where to put his head and his hands. He would have figured out a T-shirt, but Jokic just doesn't even care. So he got all bound up in the T-shirt and it's like, oh my God, forget it. Who cares?
There are 2 pictures, one of him in 15 and one of him in 14.
For Serbia?
Yep.
Okay, he doesn't care. Whatever. He would have just...
I got another point on this. I'm just doing some math in my head. The Nuggets traded Carmelo in February of 2011. They drafted Jokic in June of 2014. So that's 3.5 years later. Yep. This is the very next season. The Nuggets, I'm with you, D-Mac. It may have just been a coincidence. 3.5 years is a long time. The Nuggets had moved on. They had fired George Karl. The whole franchise was changing. It was different. whatever, new direction. The Seahawks, this is still very fresh, very on their mind. Russell Wilson was the talk of the NFL last year for all the wrong reasons. I'm going to give the Nuggets more credit as probably more of just a mistake or unintentional, whereas the Seahawks doing this feels downright, strong word, malicious.
I agree with Will, and I promise you, I know who to ask. I will dig around on the number thing, and I bet you we'll have a fun answer tomorrow. But I'm gonna guess it was seriously like, summer Vegas thing, and really the numbers are just in order, and we really don't care. Like number 1 through 23, however many guys participate in the summer league.
I'm curious for the Seahawk fans if they find it to be at all disrespectful, or if they're still like, "Oh, we're winning this divorce, whatever."
They
can't stand him.
Slap out of Russ in week 1. They don't like Russ.
They don't
which
care.
I wrote at the time they'd be classless clowns if they booed him. And our sister station in Seattle freaked out about me saying that. I maintain it. And listen, they want to ignore 9 Pro Bowls in 10 years, 2 Super Bowls, their only Lombardi, and all the good work he did in the community. The guy was at the hospital in Seattle, the Children's Hospital, every single week. If they want to feel that way, they can feel that way. But also, guys, Pete Carroll encouraged them to boo. We remember that press conference, right? Like 10 days before week 1.
Yes, sir.
So they're taking their cue from their head coach. So I don't as much blame the people of Seattle as I blame John Schneider, but even more so, I blame Pete Carroll.
Well, and I don't blame the fans at all. I'm just curious if, yes, sometimes you look at a divorce and you're like, oh, I hate that person, but you still have to remember some of the good memories. And like something like this, like you said, where it's so soon after, I just wonder if they're still on the, oh, I'm winning the divorce type thing. Look at how bad Russell Wilson has been. Or if they're like, hey, I mean, in 10 years, what if we look back, we haven't done anything? Would we even want to retire that number?
The Boston Red Sox welcome back Bill Buckner. Bill Buckner actually played for the Red Sox a few years afterwards and was welcomed back. Listen, if Bill Buckner can be forgiven by Red Sox fans, and he never needed to be forgiven anyways, I think anything's possible. I hesitate there because look at how long ago it was with Carmelo Anthony here in Denver. And look at the resentment towards Carmelo all these years later because of how he went out and how he didn't want to be here. So this is a tricky one. I think there needs to be some time between, but listen, Seattle's winning this. Seattle had a better season. They were a playoff team. They really feel good about Geno Smith. They didn't even draft a quarterback when they could have and probably should have. So I don't know, man. I think they think they're winning. They are winning. They are winning. They won.
Well, where do you sit on the Carmelo Jokic situation?
I was driving home from the office yesterday, and D-Mac was, in a good way, making me want to drive off the road. So
why?
I think D-Mac and I are going to be on total opposite sides of the fence on this. I still haven't forgiven Melo. I think he blew up a championship team. I think the Nuggets could have had their first title 10 years ago instead of waiting until now. I think he wanted a bigger market for ridiculous reasons. His wife wanted to be more famous. Lala wanted to go back to New York. And rather than keep a good thing going in Denver, Melo just looked at the bright lights of the big city and said, I'm better than these people. So as a native, I took it personally. I still take it personally. The good news is the Nuggets actually won the Carmelo Anthony trade because let's not forget, Jamal Murray was the last piece of the Carmelo trade. So that's a win right there. And guys, they made the playoffs that year and they were a really fun team. Until Danilo Gallinari tore his ACL, the Nuggets had a really good core. I'm not saying a championship core, but Gallo was good. Wilson Chandler was good. Timofey Mozgov had moments. And then they threw in Raymond Felton in his second trimester, as our friend James Marilat likes to say. So it was one of those things where the Nuggets won the Melo trade, and Melo went to New York and didn't do squat. So, no, I still hold a grudge against Melo. And I think it'd be bad juju to have Melo at Ball Arena for the NBA Finals.
Oh, my God.
Next year.
My Lord.
Let's keep him away next week, next month. I don't want any part of Carmelo Anthony in the building because all that guy did was lose playoff games.
Absolutely ridiculous. They should welcome him back with open arms, salute him, applaud him. You have a crazy lack of memory of what things were like before Carmelo Anthony. As George Karl tweeted out.
Oh, you mean when they beat the Supersonics in '94 and Dikembe held the ball over his head? That's a pretty good memory.
Do you my man, with all due respect, because I love you, big fella, but with the Bickerstaff era and what was happening before Carmelo got here, come on now, be fair.
I understand 95 to 02 was rough, D-Mac. I get that.
And George Karl today said that the Nuggets fans should applaud Carmelo. George Karl said he would never even considered coming to the Nuggets as a coach if Carmelo Anthony wasn't here. And all Carmelo Anthony did was win for the Nuggets, win for the United States of America, and he had a bad out. Yeah, okay.
He didn't win anything for the Nuggets. They went first round every single year, D-Mac, until Chauncey Billups came to town and bailed him out.
Oh, so you're saying you need another great player to go past the first round, kind of like Jokic with Jamal Murray last year.
Well, he had Allen Iverson. They didn't go past the first round. They got swept by the Lakers, and they had to trade Allen Iverson for Chauncey Billups to make that all work.
Listen, if you want to live in a bitter,
I am loving this conversation.
If you want to live in a bitter world of resentment and anger towards the arguably one of at least one of the top 5 players in the team's history, that's up to you. I live in a world of forgiveness and love. And so I am happy to welcome Carmelo back. And we'll be always grateful what he did for the Nuggets, and especially winning us a national championship for Syracuse.
I was going to say,
you got to your point.
Exactly.
The Syracuse guy. You know what, D-Mac? I'll throw an olive branch, okay? If Carmelo Anthony wants to come back on a Tuesday in November against the Pistons, we can give him a golf clap. Just don't show up for the NBA.
I want to see Chauncey, Melo, everybody.
Chauncey at game 1. They should put Chauncey courtside at game 1. Put Kenny Martin. Put Kenny Martin courtside. Put Nene courtside. Put JR. Put Birdman. Put Dante Jones. Put Lennis Kleza.
But not Melo.
Welcome back. Yeah, let's give him a standing.
But not Melo. But not Melo.
Correct.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's insane. I welcome him back. Will doesn't, because, again, as Will pointed out, he's a native.
Would you welcome Nolan Arenado back? If the Rockies make the World Series, you going to go ask Nolan to sit row 1?
This is a fair question.
Would I want Nolan back? Hell yeah. Talk about sticking it in his face. He can sit there. What a fantasy world we're living in right now. But okay, sure. Yes, and yes, and yes.
What's the worst breakup, Melo or Nolan?
Nolan by a mile. Way worse. That is insane. It's way worse what Nolan did with the Rockies than what Melo did. Way worse.
They're pretty close, but I lean towards Melo. Melo was a generational scorer and could have won an NBA championship. The Rockies hit their ceiling with Nolan, which was the wild card game and a first-round sweep.
D-Mac, give Will a hug, says Edward. Oh, my goodness.
Will knows I love him. But
I love D-Mac, but those first 2 comments were supportive of me, Rachel. So the 3 we showed, 2-1 Will.
The best is when he got to the Syracuse part, and we were like, we see where this is coming in.
Yeah, but that's where I grew to love Carmelo, and my love just continued to roll because I lived here in Denver, and I have great memories of him first coming here, getting a 10-game package, having my oldest son, who's 23, be a 3-year-old, sit on my lap for 10 games. I had never owned any kind of season package for anything, and see them excitingly go to the playoffs. They were so bad with Melo. One time my parents were visiting early 2000s before Melo, and I took them to a Nuggets game. It was so bad, I apologized to them in the third quarter, and we left the game early. Like, I really looked at my mom and dad and said, I'm sorry. Let's go.
We just wasted a couple hours.
Well, because I thought going to an NBA game would be something kind of fun and entertaining. And by the midway through the third quarter in a half-empty arena with unbelievable awful effort and being bored to tears, I said there's got to be something better to do with mom and dad. But my memories with Melo, go for my college experience to when I lived here in Denver through my kids. So generationally, I have a relationship with Carmelo Anthony that's strong. And I don't know what being a native matters, but having a connection to athletes, I think matters. By the way, Mike Evans, who went to Syracuse, can't stand Carmelo Anthony. So thumbs up. All right.
Here's what we should do, D-Mac. Why don't we put out a poll on social media?
Let's do it right now.
Honor Carmelo Anthony at some point during the NBA Finals? It's a yes or no question.
Well, what's that going to prove?
I think the phrasing, Rachel, is should the Nuggets honor Carmelo Anthony at any point during Game 1 of the NBA Finals?
Okay.
Yes or no?
I'm fine that
what the poll will prove, D-Mac, is about 70% of people will say no.
Different argument.
Should the
Different
Nuggets will repeat how you would like the phrasing, please?
I just think it should say, should the Nuggets honor Carmelo Anthony at any point during the NBA Finals? Yes or no? Because D-Mac wants him in the building next week.
Well, listen, we're not having a debate about how the
Real
public.
quick.
Yes.
This is on YouTube. Go to our YouTube if you're watching there, and you can vote in the poll, and we will put it on our Twitter and Facebook later. Go ahead.
You're likely going to get the answers you want, Will, because the bitter, angry sports crowd out there always overwhelms and loves answering surveys. No doubt about it. There's not people out there in a great mood today. Hey, I'm having a great day. Hey, oh yeah, he was awesome. Yes.
Well, we're at 50-50 right now.
Yeah, well, it's going to go Will's way. But if people wanted to just have a rational discussion about it, which would be a little bit, Will went to the quick poll that he knows he's going to win. So, okay. Hey, let's do this one. Do you think Josh McDaniel is a nice guy? Let's throw that one out there. How about that one? Would that be cool?
Okay.
Well, you just compared Melo to Josh McDaniels, not me. So even in your subconscious, D-Mac, they're in the same conversation.
But if we want to have the conversation about, well, hold on. Okay. If you want to just say ex-Denver athletes who are lowly regarded by the fan base, sure. I mean, we can have that conversation, and I'm not going to disagree with you on that. I know Melo lives in a land with Josh McDaniels and Jay Cutler and I don't know.
Nolan Arenado.
Nolan Arenado, there you go. Yeah, I get it. I mean, I know
Matt Duchene, that's a good one.
Matt Duchene will never be loved.
Who are the biggest Colorado villains? That's a good piece. That'll get people fired up on a Thursday.
It's hard to top Josh McDaniels. I mean, that's how bad he was. I mean, people hate this dude. And because not only did he burn the Broncos to the ground, but he comes from the Patriots, which we all despise. And now he's the coach of the Raiders. I mean, help me, guys. I don't know, that I don't know how else it's as if he would ban people from going to the mountains too. You also can't ski because of Josh McDaniels. Weed is illegal because of Josh McDaniels. It's Colorado. I mean, what else could he do that people would despise here in Colorado?
I will say the poll on YouTube is closer than I thought. It's 53% no, but we'll see on Twitter, because I feel like that's where we can really get some. There's
a lot of real positive people out there on Twitter.
Exactly. Just reading the comments, people are saying no. Ryan O'Reilly also. So there's another name.
People will fall over themselves in joy if Ryan O'Reilly came back here. They would love Ryan O'Reilly coming back here.
That's a good question.
Mel
Tucker, you're correct.
Mel Tucker's up there.
Oh, good point.
Mel's never, that's a really good one. Josh McDaniel isn't going to recover either. There is zero. That's a good one, because there is zero scenario where Mel Tucker would be welcomed back by anybody in Colorado.
Yeah.
I mean, zero. That's a good one.
That is a really good one.
And he was only here for how long was Mel Tucker here for?
Not even in
1 year, right? Right.
Jeez. Will, I know you wrote an article for denversports.com this morning because the national media still cannot get on with the Denver Nuggets. What's going on with Sports Illustrated?
Well, Chris Mannix goes on the Rich Eisen show yesterday and says that the Nuggets are not compelling. There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to write about. He calls Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray not interesting, and he chides Nikola Jokic for not doing more interviews. And my response to Chris Mannix would be, aren't you a journalist? Aren't you a writer? Aren't you supposed to go find these compelling stories? Yeah. He's getting absolutely crushed for this ridiculous narrative that because Jokic doesn't give interviews and because he thinks Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. are boring, that the Nuggets somehow aren't a good story. Chris Mannix, I mean, I don't know the guy, so I'm not going to go personal here, but he sort of exposed himself that he wants his stories on a silver platter. He doesn't want to have to go do any digging. Obviously, he's getting crushed for it, and rightfully so, but it's not just Chris Mannix, guys. He joins the list. Ryan Windhorst, Lisa Salters, Mark Jackson have also exposed themselves over the last couple of weeks, and it adds fuel to the Nuggets' fire, and the best way to do it, win 4 more games and throw a parade.
Chris Mannix could have easily, to answer that question, he could have said, listen, people don't know enough about the Denver Nuggets. There are some amazing stories that just haven't been discovered. But he went the opposite direction. He went TMZ clickbait on like 4 or 5 other teams. So to help him out on Twitter, I gave him bullet point stories about the 17 players on the team, Adelman, the assistant coach, the head coach, the ownership, which might be the best sports ownership in the world, and also the father-son, Rocky the mascot duo. So I hope those 20, and why they're better without Bones Highland. So I hope my 23 or so bullet points will guide the national media as they arrive here in Denver next week. 23 bullet points, including a compelling story about the mascot this year. So this is a helper for Chris Mannix and crew.
It's ridiculous.
I included your tweet in my article because I thought it was so good. So people can read about that at denversports.com.
You could literally ask me about any player. Any player on the team, and I could give you 2 or 3 interesting stories. I mean, I could give you interesting stories about Colin Gillespie, who's doing a redshirt year with his roots as a national championship at Villanova. We have 2 recent national champions with Christian Brown and Colin Gillespie. And the fact that the Nuggets were so loyal to him, they could have just cast him away, but they didn't. They embraced him the whole year. And his shooting routine before games is a kind of legendary at this point. I get it. It's not going to lead SportsCenter, but don't tell me there's something not interesting about the guy who's never even dressed for the Nuggets this year. Never mind the endless stories about Jokic, his family, where he's come from, and Jamal Murray, clearly the comeback player of the year, who's from a different country, who represents not only his family, his team, but an entire freaking country. So don't tell me about Denver's a small market. We have 4 players from 4 different countries. So Slovenia, Serbia, Australia, Jack White, and Canada, who are big stories in their country. Never mind that you can't figure out where the mountain time zone is, dude. You know, we have players that traverse the world in terms of what people know. It's a ridiculous commentary.
Real quick, 30-second answer from you, Will Peterson. Where do you stand on the Christian Brown no longer being in the rotation?
I'm as big a Christian Brown fan as anyone. I've advocated for him since the night he got drafted. I was the biggest banger of the table. He needed to be in the rotation during the regular season when he had those random times where Malone would bench him. But I also understand why he's no longer in the rotation. He's been thinking about his shot too much in the playoffs. His defense hasn't been quite as good. It was a tough decision by Michael Malone. As a fan, it's tough for me because I like Christian Brown. Michael Malone got this one right. The Nuggets should have a 7-man rotation in the NBA Finals.
Okay, I love it, Will Peterson.
Can't disagree.
I know.
His minutes were dwindling anyways. I mean, I think before he really got benched, he was down to 3 minutes on the floor. You just get more time to rest during the playoff. The timeouts are longer. There's more of them. It's just different. There's more rest between games. I love Christian Brown. He is a very important player for them in the future. The lights just got like a pinch too bright for him. I'm not going to say he's going to be out of the rotation because we'll have to see how the matchups go, but it's unlikely we see a lot of them or if we even see him again, period.
Big Christian Brown fans.
He took that 3 in game 3 in LA that looked like he was thinking about it, right? Whenever he thinks about their shot, that's not good. He got back in the second half, played 1 possession, made a defensive mistake. Malone yanked him. Did not play game 4. Unless it's garbage time, he won't step foot in the NBA Finals, in my opinion.
We're all big CB fans here on CB for sure. John Morant gets a welfare check after he posts on social media. Bye. We got 1 minute, Will Peterson. Quick answer, please.
I mean, it's just sad, right? Like Jaw's posting stuff on social that is concerning. I know he ended his post by saying goodbye after telling everyone he loved him. Yeah, that deserves a welfare check. I hope John Morant's okay. I know he's a butt of a lot of jokes and a punchline, and he's done a lot of things wrong. I'm not excusing his behavior, but let's get him some help.
We, on Coffee Break, what we talked about was a much more serious thing upon his second offense, saying it was a mental health issue. We said that before all of this came out. That appears to be true, and I wish anybody with mental health struggles the best in recovery. We have very sad stories. I won't go into it, but the story of Kenny McKinley here with the Denver Broncos is a super sad story.
Yep.
So when people put out warnings on social media, they should be attended to, and I'm glad somebody looked out for them.
Take it serious
Yes,
for sure.
I would, yes.
And then a huge congratulations to the Florida Panthers for sweeping the Carolina Hurricanes, something I didn't personally see coming, but Will Peterson, the Panthers advanced to the Stanley Cup final.
What a crazy series, right? Couple overtime games. Last night should have been overtime, and Florida scores with 4 seconds left. Matthew Tkachuk is a superstar.
Yep.
The Calgary Flames got to feel awful dumb right now.
This would be a good poll. Who did a better job getting swept? The Canes or the Lakers? I mean, because Brian Windhorst said the Lakers just did an amazing job getting swept. The Canes did pretty good. Everything was a 1-goal game, a lot of overtime games. I mean, did they do better than the Lakers in getting swept? By the way, what's sad too, really quick, about the Avalanche, they really weren't that close. They lose to the Kraken. The Kraken lose to the Stars. The Stars are going to lose to Vegas. It really was. And watch, Vegas will lose to Florida. So it really wasn't that close with the Avs this year.
I'm rooting for Florida. I'm here for them. Go Panthers in my book. Real quick on our poll on YouTube, 59% of people said no and agreed with Will. So shocker.
I'm stunned.
Sorry, D-Mac.
I can't believe it.
59% of the votes in a political election, that's a landslide. So I'll take it.
Oh, okay. On that note, we're going to be back tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. for another episode of Coffee Break. Huge shout out to you, Will Peterson, D-Mac. As always, a pleasure. And to everybody in the comments, we'll be back 10:30 tomorrow morning. Have a wonderful Thursday, everybody. We will see you later.